I used to live in an old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't creepy at all, and in fact, I found it quite peaceful. However, after I moved, I realized that I should have paid just a bit more attention, or have done things differently at least. I moved in when I was 10 years old, and at the age of 14 and 15, I started smelling something rotting when I'd go to sleep. I had a relatively low-sitting bed, and where my head would rest was a small ventilation duct. I'd complain to my parents, and they'd have several exterminators go down and check it out. My theory was that rats were climbing into the ductwork, getting lost and then dying inside there. At least, that would explain the smell, right? I say rats though because at night, I'd also hear little scratching sounds. And while part of me thought rats, the other part of me thought that it was a super haunted house. Besides the scratching, I would also hear my doors open at night and what sounded like footsteps. I could also make out visible shadows in the room, and I developed an unnatural fear of the dark. And with my constant complaints about the ghost in my room, I was actually diagnosed with paranoia schizophrenia. So, fast forward about another 5 years. I moved out of the house by then, but ended up house sitting from time to time. And this night, I was house sitting with a friend over, and we actually heard the scratches together. And finally, I thought, someone to bear witness to the insanity that I've been accused of all these years. We noticed, however, that the scratches, they were coming from my room, and eventually made their way around the entire house, in fact. Like someone was tapping their nails on the outside of the house or something. We eventually hear the doorknob to my garage, located in the kitchen, begin to rattle just faintly too. My friend and I, we bolt right out of there. Obviously, I told my parents what happened and what I'd witnessed this time. They said that they were 5 minutes away and on their way home anyway, so I could leave. While I'm sitting in my car miles away now, still kind of freaked out, I get a call from my dad. And he's screaming and sobbing, asking me where the dog is. The whole reason I house sit is to watch her, and I told him that she was there when I left. While he's losing his shit over his dog, my mum calls the police, and when they get there, they do a sweep of my house. My family and I are now reunited on the front lawn, waiting for the police. When they come out, they inform us that my room's crawl space had been opened, and my closet door was wide open too. And not only that, but upon closer inspection, they knew right away that a squatter was living under our house. They found a knife, some rope, and a pack of cigarettes, and it appeared that the squatter was roaming around outside, which is extra gross because that means when we bolted, we were out there with him. He seemed to have entered my crawl space when we realized that he couldn't get in, and once he was in the house, he began to rob it. He took my dog, who we found later whimpering in the shed where he stuck her. He was trying to remove the TV, but was interrupted when my parents came back home. He made an exit through my window, and the police were unable to locate him, and they didn't investigate any further than that, and they never found him. And you know, the really scary thing about this story is that for years, I was called crazy and slapped full of medication that fried my brain and gave me the onset of Parkinson's. I'm still scared of the dark and can't sleep with my windows open, and nail or lock any accesses to my house. I can't sleep alone or without a nightlight and a TV going on. I can't stand the sight of open doors and double-check their locks, and the shittiest thing is that no one even cares. There's no apologies for calling me crazy or pumping me full of psych medicines that made me see sounds. Hell, my mother doesn't even remember any of this happening, and my friend doesn't even really care that it did. If it wasn't for my best friend, I'd think that I was still crazy and making this up. But my house was not haunted, and I wasn't just hearing things or seeing things. Someone had been living right next to my bed for years.